What if the real reason you're exhausted isn't because life is unfair, but because you spent years caring about people who never cared the same way back? It sounds harsh, but you know it's true. You've been the reliable one, the one who shows up, the one who listens, the one who fixes everything even when you're breaking inside. And yet somehow, you're also the one who gets ignored, dismissed, or taken for granted. Here's the part no one tells you. The world doesn't break the cold-hearted. It breaks the kind ones, the ones who give until they run empty, who love without guardrails, who carry responsibilities no one else even notices. But here's the good news. In the next few minutes, you'll discover why this pattern keeps repeating, and how to finally stop it without becoming bitter, cynical, or cold. Because Stoic philosophy, though born 2,000 years ago, holds the exact antidote to the emotional exhaustion of the modern world. Social pressure, endless notifications, workplace politics, disappointment in relationships, all of it. And stay with me until the end, because I'm going to reveal the single mistake 90% of good people make, the one that silently destroys their confidence and keeps them stuck in the same painful cycle. Let's be honest, you didn't become the strong one because life was easy. You became that person because, somewhere along the way, you learned that if you didn't hold everything together, things would fall apart. Maybe it was in your childhood, when you had to grow up too fast. Maybe it was in your relationships, where you were always the calming voice while the other person brought chaos. Or maybe it was in your career, where your reliability became an unspoken expectation rather than something to be appreciated. And because you're responsible, people assume you'll always be responsible. Because you're patient, people assume you'll tolerate anything. Because you're kind, people assume you have no limits. But deep down, you feel it. The quiet resentment, the emotional fatigue, the sense that you're giving more than your soul can keep replenishing. You don't want to become cold. You don't want to push people away. You just want balance. You want respect. You want peace. That's exactly why this video matters. Not to turn you into someone unfeeling or detached, but to help you rediscover the strength of caring wisely, not endlessly. Because when kindness is guided by wisdom, it becomes power, not weakness. Before we go any further, let's set one thing straight. This isn't a lecture. This isn't about telling you who you should be. This is a conversation, one that many people your age, especially here in the modern American world of constant pressure and silent expectations, desperately need but rarely get to have. Because the truth is, the way we live today isn't natural. We wake up to a flood of notifications, bad news, unfinished work, family responsibilities, and emotional noise from every direction. You're expected to stay calm, stay productive, stay polite, stay available, all while fighting battles no one sees. And that's exactly why Stoicism matters more now than ever. Not as some cold philosophy that tells you to ignore your feelings, but as a map, a guide to help you navigate chaos without losing yourself. So in this video, we're going to talk about why good people break, and how they can learn to stop carrying weight that was never meant for them. We'll explore why betrayal hits you harder, why silence can be a form of strength, and how to build a version of yourself that remains kind, but never again collapses under the pressure of others. So here's what we're going to explore together, calmly, clearly, and without rushing you into some unrealistic version of strength. By the end of this video, you will understand 3 things with complete clarity. First, why being a good person in today's world often feels like a disadvantage. Not because kindness is wrong, but because kindness without boundaries becomes a magnet for people who take more than they give. Second, how Stoicism gives you a simple framework to protect your peace, what you can control, what you can't, and how to stop letting other people's behavior dictate the quality of your day. These principles have survived for thousands of years because they speak to something deeply human, the desire to stay steady, even when the world pulls at you from every angle. And third, how to apply these ideas to real situations in your life. Workplace pressure, social media overload, relationships that drain you, and the quiet loneliness that hits even when you're surrounded by people. Think of it like this. You're not here to become someone else. You're here to become yourself again. The version of you with clarity, dignity, and emotional strength. The modern good person's dilemma lays start with something simple, but honest. Good people break not because they are weak, but because they carry too much, for too long, without anyone noticing the weight. Think about your own life for a moment. You've always been the person others rely on, the one who picks up the slack at work when deadlines pile up, the one who keeps the peace in the family when tensions rise, the one who reassures friends even when you're quietly falling apart. You've built a reputation for being strong, calm, and dependable, and at first, that felt good. It felt meaningful, but over the years, something shifted. Reliability became an expectation. Patience became an obligation. Kindness became a resource people freely extracted without ever asking whether you had enough left for yourself. And maybe you started noticing that the more you gave, the less people seemed to value it. The more you tried to keep everything together, the more invisible your effort became. This is the modern dilemma of the good person. You're praised for your strength, but punished for your softness. You're admired for your patience, but burdened by everyone else's chaos. And somewhere along the way, you stopped asking a simple question: who helps me when I'm the one breaking? The weight no one sees. And the truth is, most people will never fully understand the burden you carry, because you make it look effortless. You don't complain, you don't lash out, you don't crumble in public. You show up, you hold it together, you do what needs to be done. But inside, it's different. There are days when you wake up already tired, before the day even starts. Days when you scroll through your phone, not because you care about the world, but because it's easier than facing your own exhaustion. Days when you lie in bed at night, replaying conversations, wondering why you always end up being the responsible one, the steady one, the strong one, even when your own world feels unstable. And the craziest part, people see your strength and assume you have no limits. They interpret your silence as agreement, your reliability as availability, your kindness as permission. So the cycle continues. You lift others while sinking quietly. You support everyone while carrying your own fears in secret. And slowly, almost invisibly, the emotional weight builds, until one day you realize you're not tired from the world. You're tired from being everyone's solution while having nowhere to fall yourself. When carrying everything starts to break, there comes a moment, quiet, subtle, almost unnoticeable, when something inside you begins to crack. Not dramatically, not all at once. Just a small fracture, a tiny realization: I can't keep doing this. Maybe it hits you after another long day at work where your efforts went unnoticed. Maybe it happens during an argument at home where you found yourself apologizing just to keep the peace. Or maybe it's when a friend reached out only because they needed something. Again, it's in these moments that you start to see the pattern clearly. It's not that you're too kind. It's that you've been kind without protection. And that's the real reason good people break. Not because goodness is a flaw, but because goodness without boundaries becomes self-destructs. But here's where Stoicism steps in with a kind of clarity that almost feels like a relief. The Stoics understood something most people today overlook. The world doesn't reward endless giving. It rewards clarity. Clarity about who you are. Clarity about what you will accept. Clarity about what truly deserves your energy. This is where your strength begins, not in giving more, but in seeing more clearly. The Stoic principle. Kindness needs boundaries. One of the most liberating ideas in Stoicism is this. Kindness is powerful, but only when it has boundaries. Without boundaries, kindness becomes a language that only takers understand. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "If it is not right, do not do it. If it is not true, do not say it." A simple sentence, but beneath it lies an entire philosophy about clarity, knowing where your values end and where someone else's demands begin. The Stoics weren't emotionless, despite what people think. They cared deeply about virtue, about compassion, about living in harmony with others. But they also understood that your energy, your time, and your emotional space are finite. If you give them away freely, without discernment, you eventually lose yourself. Stoicism teaches that kindness isn't measured by how much you give, but by how intentionally you give. You can be warm without being walked on. You can be generous without being drained. You can be patient without being someone's emotional punching bag. And ironically, when you finally learn to draw those boundaries, people start treating your kindness with the respect it always deserved. Kindness isn't weakness, but people treat it that way when you have no limits zone. Of the hardest lessons good people learn is this. Most of the world doesn't see your kindness as strength. They see it as availability, they see it as permission, and if you're not careful, they see it as weakness. But here's the truth the Stoics understood long before modern psychology discovered it. People don't respond to your intentions, they respond to your boundaries. Someone can see your kindness and still take advantage of you. Someone can appreciate your generosity while quietly expecting you to give more. Someone can admire your patience but continue to push past your limits because you've never said where those limits are. This isn't because you're soft or naive. It's because you assume others think the way you do, that they feel the weight of your effort, that they care about your well-being, that they'll naturally protect what you willingly give. But that's not how life works. As Seneca reminds us, life is long, if you know how to use it, and that includes using your kindness wisely. Stoicism doesn't ask you to stop caring. It simply teaches you to care with clarity, to recognize who deserves your warmth and who only seeks your warmth to avoid their own coldness. Boundaries aren't walls, they're doors you choose. When to open at some point, you have to ask yourself a question most good-hearted people avoid. Why do I feel guilty for protecting my own peace? That guilt isn't natural, it's learned. It comes from years of putting others first, from being praised for self-sacrifice, from believing that love means carrying the emotional weight of everyone around you. But Stoicism offers a different perspective. Boundaries aren't signs of selfishness, they're signs of self-respect. A boundary doesn't say, "I don't care about you." It says, "I care about me too." And the moment you begin setting them, calmly, respectfully, without drama, something powerful happens. People who valued you will adjust. People who used you will disappear. People who misunderstood you will finally see you clearly. Boundaries don't push the right people away. They filter out the wrong ones. This is why Stoicism emphasizes clarity over pleasing others. When you define what you will and won't accept, life becomes lighter, relationships become healthier, and your energy stops leaking into places that never gave anything back. Now that we understand the principle, let's see how to apply it in real life, especially in work, family, and relationships. Applying Stoic boundaries in the real world. Let's bring this down from philosophy into the real world. Your world. Because clarity doesn't mean much unless you can actually use it in the places where your energy gets drained the most. Take work, for example. In many American workplaces, especially for people in their 30s and 40s, the unspoken rule is simple. If you're capable, you'll be expected to do more. That's why you're the one who stays late, answers emails at night, and picks up tasks no one else wants. And because you've done it once, they assume you'll do it again. But here's where Stoicism shifts the game. Instead of over-explaining or apologizing, you establish calm boundaries, not with defensiveness, but with clarity. I can take this on tomorrow, but not tonight. I'm available during work hours, not after. Simple, direct, respectful. And you know what happens? People adjust, because most of the time, they weren't exploiting you intentionally. They were simply following the pattern you unknowingly created. Stoicism teaches that you can be dependable without becoming a dumping ground, valuable without becoming overwhelmed. Bringing Stoic boundaries into family and personal relationships. If work drains your time, family and relationships often drain your emotional bandwidth. And for good people, especially those who grow up being the responsible one, this is where boundaries feel the hardest and the guilt hits the deepest. Maybe you're the peacemaker at home, the one who smooths over conflicts, absorbs tension, and keeps everyone grounded. Or maybe you have a partner who relies on your emotional stability but doesn't always offer the same in return. And then there's family, parents, siblings, relatives who assume that because you've always been strong, you'll always take on more. Here's the Stoic truth. You're allowed to say no, even to the people you love, not because you love them less, but because you finally love yourself enough to stop carrying what isn't yours. Boundaries in relationships don't have to be confrontational. They can be gentle. I need some time to recharge. I can listen, but I can't fix this for you. I love you, but I can't say yes to everything. Healthy people will respect it, and healthy people will resist it. And that tells you everything you need to know. Stoicism reminds you that peace at home starts with peace within yourself. Stoicism in the age of social media and information overload. And then there's the invisible pressure of modern life. The pressure coming from a device you hold in your hand. Social media has become a stage where everyone performs confidence, success, happiness, and perfection. Meanwhile, you're comparing your real life to their highlight reels without even realizing it. A single scroll can ruin your mood. A negative comment can linger in your mind all day. A piece of bad news can make you feel powerless before your morning coffee. This is where Stoicism shines with almost shocking relevance. It reminds you that you don't have to mentally absorb everything you see. Not every headline deserves your fear. Not every post deserves your envy. Not every opinion deserves space in your mind. Epictetus said it best, you become what you give your attention to. And in today's world, attention is your most precious and most exploited resource. A Stoic approach to social media doesn't mean abandoning it. It means using it intentionally, limiting your exposure, and following negativity, protecting your emotional climate. Because peace isn't found by shutting the world out. It's found by choosing what you allow into your inner world. When you begin applying these Stoic principles at work, at home, online, something subtle but powerful starts to shift. You begin to feel lighter, calmer, more centered. Not because life becomes easier, but because you're no longer fighting battles that were never yours to fight. You are no longer absorbing everyone else's chaos. You are no longer letting the noise of the world drown out your own needs. What you're doing, without even realizing it, is reclaiming your emotional oxygen for the first time in a long time. You're breathing for yourself, and as that clarity grows, you start to see a pattern. The moments that hurt you the most were never caused by your kindness. They were caused by the lack of protection around it. This realization is the doorway to a deeper truth, one that every good-hearted person eventually faces. Pain doesn't just come from caring. It comes from caring about people who don't care back. Which brings us to one of the hardest experiences in adulthood, betrayal. Not just romantic betrayal, but emotional betrayal from friends, family, co-workers, and the people you once trusted the most. In the next chapter, we're going to talk about why betrayal cuts so deeply, and why, paradoxically, it can become the turning point that makes you stronger than ever. Why betrayal hurts good people more. Betrayal leaves a mark that no apology can erase. It's not just disappointment, it's a collapse of the world you thought you understood. And if you're someone with a good heart, someone who shows up fully in your relationships, betrayal doesn't hit you at the surface. It hits you in your identity. Because for a good people, loyalty isn't just a word, it's a way of life. When you care deeply. When you commit fully. When you trust sincerely. That's why betrayal doesn't just feel like someone failed you. It feels like you misjudged them, like you misread the relationship, like you poured your heart into something that wasn't real. That's the part that stings the most. Not the act itself, but the meaning behind it. The voice inside that whispers, "How could I have been so wrong about someone I let so close?" This pain is sharper for good-hearted people because you didn't protect your softness. You didn't hold back. You didn't question motives. You gave the best parts of yourself, assuming the other person would own it. But betrayal exposes a truth many of us avoid. Not everyone whose hand you hold has a heart that holds you back. What makes betrayal even more painful is what happens after the shock fades. The anger is loud, but the self-blame is louder. Instead of thinking, "They treated me badly," you start thinking, "What did I do wrong? Was I not enough? Did I miss the signs?" Good people rarely blame others first. They turn inward, not because they're weak, but because they're introspective. You examine your own actions, your own judgment, your own openness. You replay conversations, question your instincts, and wonder if your kindness was the reason someone felt they could take advantage of you. And in that quiet spiral, shame begins to grow. Not the shame of being betrayed, but the shame of feeling foolish for trusting. You start doubting your worth, your ability to choose the right people, and even your capacity to maintain healthy relationships. But here's the truth. Being betrayed doesn't mean you were wrong to care. It means someone else was wrong not to value what you offered. You weren't naive for trusting. They were unworthy of that trust. And this distinction is everything, because it shifts the pain away from self-blame and toward clarity. A clarity the Stoics understood deeply. Betrayal is a turning point, not an ending. What most people don't realize is that betrayal, as devastating as it feels, is often the beginning of a different kind of clarity, one you couldn't access before. Because betrayal doesn't just reveal who someone else truly is, it reveals who you've been in the relationship. It forces you to see where you overextended yourself, where you ignored the red flags, where you accepted less than you deserved, where you kept giving chances that were never earned. It's a painful mirror, but an honest one. And here's the part that aligns perfectly with Stoicism. The Stoics believe that hardship, especially emotional hardship, is what refines a person. Seneca wrote, "Fire tests gold and adversity tests the strong." Betrayal is that fire, not because you deserved the pain, but because it exposes the places where your boundaries were too soft, your hope too unchecked, your expectations too generous. This is why so many people look back on their deepest heartbreak and realize it was the moment their life shifted, the moment they stopped people-pleasing, the moment they reassessed their self-worth, the moment they started protecting the parts of themselves that once went unguarded. Betrayal breaks illusions, but it builds awareness. The Stoic lens. We suffer more in imagination than in reality. Seneca once said, "We suffer more in imagination than in reality." At first, it sounds dismissive, as if he's saying your pain isn't real. But that's not the meaning at all. What Seneca understood, and what most of us learn only after being hurt, is that the event itself is only a small part of the suffering. It's everything that comes after: replaying the betrayal, imagining different outcomes, wondering what you could have done differently, questioning your worth. That becomes a far heavier burden than the betrayal itself. Your mind becomes the echo chamber where pain multiplies. You don't just feel the betrayal once. You feel it every time your thoughts circle back to it. Every time you remember a promise that wasn't kept. Every time you imagine how things should have been. Every time you think of the version of that person you believed in. A version that never truly existed. This is where the Stoics bring extraordinary clarity. Pain is inevitable, but suffering is optional. Not because you should ignore your feelings, but because you can learn to stop feeding the emotional fire with imagination, fear, and self-doubt. Stoicism helps you separate the wound from the story you build around it. And that separation is the beginning of healing, stepping out of the story your mind creates own. Of the most painful things about betrayal isn't the betrayal itself. It's the story your mind builds around it. You start replaying every detail, every conversation, every moment you trusted, every time you ignored your own intuition because you wanted to believe the best in someone. Your mind becomes a projector, replaying scenes you wish you could rewrite. And in those replayed moments, the pain grows larger than the event itself. You are not just hurt by what happened. You are hurt by what you think it means about you. Stoicism teaches a different way of looking. Step out of the story. Look at the facts. Separate what happened from what you're imagining. The fact is, someone made a choice that reflected their character. The imagination says, I wasn't enough. I should have seen it coming. I must be the problem. The fact is neutral. The story is emotional, and most of your suffering lives in the story, not the fact. When you learn to step out of that story, even for a moment, you make room for truth, for healing, and for a future not shaped by past wounds. From emotional chaos to stoic clarity, when you finally separate what actually happened from the story your mind creates, something shifts inside you. The emotional fog starts to lift. The self-blame loses its grip. And the betrayal begins to look less like a personal failure and more like what it truly was, a revelation, not a reflection of your worth. This clarity is what the Stoics call returning to the present moment. Not the dramatic present, not the emotional storm, but the simple truth of now. The place where you stop fighting the past and begin accepting what you cannot change. And here's the beautiful part. When you stop feeding the pain with imagination, you stop being held hostage by the person who hurt you. They no longer live rent-free in your mind. They no longer dictate your identity, your confidence, or your ability to trust again. Stoicism doesn't erase the wound. It prevents the wound from defining you. This is the point where healing becomes possible, where you transition from surviving the betrayal to learning from it. Where your heart becomes wiser, not colder. Where you reclaim the parts of yourself that were lost in the chaos. Now, let's talk about what that healing actually looks like. Not in theory, but in your day-to-day life. Healing the Stoic way, emotional minimalism after betrayal, isn't about pretending nothing happened. It's not about being strong in that forced and healthy way people often expect. Stoicism offers something far more humane, something I call emotional minimalism. Emotional minimalism doesn't mean feeling less. It means responding less to the things that don't deserve your emotional energy. It's the art of not giving your heart away to every thought, every memory, every trigger, every person who once had access to you. Think of it like cleaning a cluttered room. Your emotions are scattered everywhere. Fear here, anger there, old hopes in one corner, guilt in another. Stoicism helps you sort through that mess. What's mine to carry? What belongs to someone else? What can I let go of? You begin by shrinking the emotional space that betrayal occupies in your mind. Not through suppression, but through selection. You choose which thoughts stay and which get dismissed. You choose which memories deserve reflection and which deserve closure. And for the first time in a long time, you feel something surprising. Lightness, space, breadth. Emotional minimalism isn't coldness. It's emotional hygiene, cleaning away what no longer serves your growth, reclaiming your energy without becoming cold. Next step in healing, after clearing the emotional clutter, is reclaiming the energy you've been losing without even realizing it. Because betrayal doesn't just take your trust, it takes your focus, your peace, your sleep, your self-confidence, and for a while, it feels like the person who hurt you is still draining you, even though they're no longer in your life. That's because part of your mind is still open, still leaking energy into the past. Stoicism calls us back from that leak with one simple idea. Where your attention goes, your life follows. Reclaiming your energy isn't a dramatic process. It's quiet, gentle, and deeply personal. You start by noticing where your emotional power is going. Are you replaying old conversations? Are you imagining what they're thinking? Are you trying to make sense of something that will never make sense? Then you slowly turn that attention inward, toward rebuilding yourself instead of reliving the wound. You start investing in your routines, your goals, your well-being, your peace, and here's the most important part. Reclaiming your energy doesn't turn you cold. It turns you whole. You stop bleeding emotionally, and you start growing again, stronger, clearer, and more intentional with where your heart goes next. Healing is not about becoming hard. It's about becoming witty as your energy returns to you. Something else begins to rise with it, a new sense of self-respect, a recognition that you can be kind without being consumed, that you can care without collapsing, that you can love deeply without abandoning yourself. This is where many people fear they might become cold or distant. But the truth is the opposite. Healing through Stoicism doesn't harden your heart. It strengthens its foundation. You stop giving your love to people who don't honor it. You stop explaining yourself to people who misunderstand you on purpose. You stop chasing closure from people who never deserved a seat at your table in the first place. And as this grounded strength grows, you begin to notice something powerful. You speak less. You react less. You explain less. Not because you're angry, but because you finally learned to protect your peace. This shift marks the beginning of the next chapter of your evolution. The power of strategic silence and selective coldness. Not the kind that shuts the world out, but the kind that keeps the wrong people out, while leaving space for the right people to enter. The power of silence. Why saying less makes you stronger. There comes a point in your growth where you realize something surprising. You don't need to respond to everything. You don't need to justify your decisions. You don't need to defend your character to people committed to misunderstanding you. Silence, in these moments, becomes its own kind of language. Most people speak quickly because they're afraid of being disliked, judged, misunderstood, or abandoned. They rush to explain themselves, to fix misunderstandings, to soften the edges of someone else's discomfort. But the Stoics understood a deeper truth. The more you explain, the more power you give away. Marcus Aurelius put it simply: waste no more time arguing what a good man should be. Be one. That's the essence of Stoic silence. It's not withdrawal. It's mastery. It's the ability to stay centered while others try to pull you into their storms. It's choosing not to react out of fear, ego, or insecurity. And when you begin practicing this kind of silence, people notice, not because you're passive, but because you've become grounded, controlled, and unshakable. In a world full of noise, the person who speaks less, but with clarity and intention, becomes the one people listen to the most. Over-explaining is a form of self-abandonment, one of the most damaging habits good people develop, often without realizing it, is over-explaining. You explain why you said no. You explain why you need space. You explain why something hurt you. You explain why you can't always be available. And sometimes you even explain why you shouldn't have to explain. But here's the truth the Stoics understood well. When you over-explain, you abandon yourself to win someone else's approval. You hand over your confidence. You hand over your boundaries. You hand over your dignity in small, subtle ways, hoping the other person will understand, validate, or accept you. But people rarely respect explanations. They respect consistency. They respect calmness. They respect someone who knows their limits and communicates them without pleading for permission. Silence interrupts the cycle. It rewrites the dynamic. It communicates, without words, that your choices are not up for negotiation. And this kind of silence is not passive. It's powerful. It says, I trust myself enough not to defend myself. When you stop over-explaining, you stop shrinking to fit inside someone else's expectations, and you return to your natural size. Silence in conflict, strength. Not avoidance. Most people misunderstand silence during conflict. They think staying quiet means you're avoiding confrontation, backing down, or surrendering. But Stoic silence is something entirely different. It's not withdrawal. It's strategy. When emotions are high, clarity is low, and silence becomes the pause that protects you from saying something you'll regret or engaging in a fight you never needed to be part of in the first place. This is why the Stoics valued restraint, the ability to act, not react. In a heated moment, silence communicates a powerful message. I'm not entering your chaos. It breaks the momentum of the conflict. It removes oxygen from someone else's fire. It keeps you in control of yourself, the only thing the Stoics said you truly own. And here's what's surprising. People often respect the one who stays calm more than the one who shouts the loudest. The quiet person becomes the anchor in the room, the one who refuses to be pulled emotionally into someone else's storm. So you don't stay silent because you're scared. You stay silent because you refuse to fight battles that damage your dignity or drain your peace. This sets the stage for the next principle. Selective coldness, knowing exactly when to close your emotional door. Selective coldness. The strength of controlled distance. Selective coldness is one of the most misunderstood forms of strength. People hear the word cold and imagine emotional shutdown, bitterness, or resentment. But that's not what Stoicism points to at all. Selective coldness isn't about shutting people out. It's about not letting the wrong people in. It's the quiet decision to withdraw your emotional access from those who misuse it. It's choosing who gets your warmth, instead of giving it to everyone by default. It's understanding that your compassion is a gift, not an obligation. Selective coldness means you no longer respond to manipulation, guilt-tripping, passive aggression, or emotional taking. You stop rewarding bad behavior with attention. You stop giving explanations to people who twist your words. You stop offering softness to people who mistake kindness for weakness. And here's the surprising part. This kind of controlled distance doesn't make you harsh. It makes you fair. You're no longer punishing yourself to keep others comfortable. You're no longer allowing people to drain your energy just because you're capable of giving. Stoicism teaches a simple rule. Give warmth to those who protect it. Give distance to those who exploit it. This is what selective coldness truly is, clarity in emotional form. Creating emotional distance without losing yourself. Selective coldness protects you from the kind of relationships that drain you slowly, quietly, almost invisibly. These are the connections where you give more than you receive, where your needs are minimized, and where your boundaries are seen as inconveniences instead of essentials. Instead of arguing, you step back. Instead of over-explaining, you go quiet. Instead of fighting to be understood, You conserve your energy. This emotional distance isn't punishment. It's self-preservation. Toxic people rely on your emotional availability. They count on your empathy, your forgiveness, your desire to keep the peace. When you pull back, calmly, firmly, without drama, they lose the ability to manipulate your reactions. Your silence disrupts their patterns. Your distance removes the power they once had, and something important happens inside you. You start to feel safe again. You start trusting your own judgment. You start choosing peace over chaos, intention over impulse, clarity over guilt. Selective coldness doesn't make you less human. It makes you more self-respecting. It signals to the world and to yourself that your emotions are a privilege, not a playground. This sets the foundation for the next part of your growth. Becoming untouchable, not in a hardened way, but in a grounded, self-governed way. The inner shift that makes you untouchably as you begin practicing selective coldness. You start noticing a profound shift inside you, a shift from being reactive to being centered, from letting the world shape your emotions to shaping them yourself. You feel less pulled by other people's moods, less influenced by their expectations, less affected by their opinions. And this isn't because you stopped caring. It's because you stopped caring. The people who once drained you lose their grip. The situations that once overwhelmed you no longer control you. You no longer feel the need to justify, chase, fix, or prove yourself. You simply stand where you are, grounded, steady, self-owned. This is the beginning of becoming untouchable. Not in an arrogant or detached way, but in the way the Stoics described strength, a person who cannot be pulled off their inner foundation. When your peace is no longer negotiable, when your boundaries are no longer flexible, when your emotions are no longer available to just anyone, you stop being easily hurt, easily manipulated, or easily destabilized. This is where we enter the next chapter of your evolution, understanding what it truly means to rise alone and win alone. Your emotions stabilize because your identity stabilizes. You're no longer living reactively, shaped by others' behavior. You're living proactively, guided by your principles, exactly how the Stoics lived. And piece by piece, your confidence returns. Not the loud, performative confidence the world shows on social media, but the quiet kind. The kind that says, I know who I am, and I trust myself to protect what matters. This is the inner strength that makes you truly untouchable. From inner strength to emotional protection once your self-respect is rebuilt. The next stage of becoming untouchable isn't about being stronger. It's about being protected. Because even the strongest person can be drained if they don't guard their emotional boundaries. And this is where Stoicism introduces one of its most practical, modern concepts: building your emotional firewall. Just like a firewall protects a computer from harmful intrusions, an emotional firewall protects your mind from unnecessary chaos, negativity, manipulation, and emotional overload. It doesn't block out life, it filters what gets in. Think about how many times your mood has shifted because of someone else's attitude, or how often your day has been hijacked by someone's anger, expectations, or demands, or how easily one message, one comment, or one problem can pull your emotions off balance. Your emotional firewall stops the dot. It's the boundary between what others feel and what you choose to absorb, between their urgency and your priorities, between their instability and your inner calm. This is the transition Stoicism wants for you, from emotional reactivity to emotional sovereignty. And in the next section, we'll break this firewall into a simple, 3-step routine you can practice every day, no matter who or what tries to pull you off center. Emotional firewall. Step 1. The pausive. First step in building your emotional firewall is deceptively simple, but it can change your entire life. Pause before you react. Most emotional damage doesn't come from what people do to us. It comes from how quickly we react to what people do. We get triggered. We respond impulsively. We defend ourselves immediately. We rush to fix, explain, justify, calm, or comfort. And before we know it, we've handed over our emotional power without even realizing it. The Stoics believed that between stimulus and response, there is a sacred space, a brief moment where you get to choose who you want to be. This is the pause. In practice, it looks like this. Someone criticizes you, gives you breathe before answering. Someone pushes your boundaries, gives you wait a moment before replying. Someone sends a provoking message, gives you sit with the discomfort instead of reacting instantly. That pause is where your power lives. It interrupts the emotional chain reaction. It prevents you from being dragged into someone else's chaos. It gives you time to choose intention over instinct. The pause doesn't make you passive. It makes you precise. It ensures that your response reflects your values, not your wounds. Emotional firewall. Step 2. Detach the emotion from the situation once you've mastered the pause. The next step is learning how to separate what you feel from what is actually happening. This is where most people lose themselves, not in the event, but in the emotional story wrapped around it. Someone raises their voice, gives you feel disrespected. Someone cancels plans, gives you feel unimportant. Someone doesn't respond, gives you feel ignored. But the Stoics remind us, a feeling is not a fact. Detaching doesn't mean suppressing your emotions. It means observing them without letting them hijack your judgment. You acknowledge the reaction, the sting, the tension, the disappointment, but you don't let it decide your next move. In practice, detachment sounds like, "This comment upset me," but that doesn't automatically mean they were attacking me. I feel ignored. But maybe they're overwhelmed, not uninterested. My mind is spiraling, but I don't have all the information yet. This emotional separation gives you clarity. It stops you from assuming the worst. It prevents your trauma from interpreting situations that have nothing to do with your past. And most importantly, it protects your peace by reminding you that your emotions are signals, not commands. With this clarity, you're ready for the final step, acting from values, not reactions. Emotional firewall. Step 3. Choose the response that aligns with your values. Since you've paused and detached your emotions from the situation, you arrive at the most powerful step of all, choosing a response that reflects your values, not your wounds. This is where emotional maturity is forged. Most people respond from impulse, fear, anger, pride, insecurity, old pain. But when you act from your values, your principles, your integrity, your inner code, you become the kind of person the Stoics admired: steady, intentional, and almost impossible to destabilize. In practice, it sounds like this. Instead of reacting defensively, gives you respond calmly. Instead of matching someone's disrespect, gives you maintain your dignity. Instead of letting your ego speak, gives you let your clarity speak. Instead of escalating conflict, gives you choose peace without surrendering your boundaries. Values create consistency. They give you a map for how to act when emotions cloud your judgment. They keep you anchored when the world tries to pull you in every direction. And here's why this step matters so much. When your response is guided by your values, you never regret your behavior, no matter how someone else acted. You stay in control of yourself. You protect your energy. You move forward with self-respect intact. This is what makes your emotional firewall complete, and what transforms you into someone truly untouchable. Becoming untouchable. Strength that doesn't need to prove itself by now. You can feel the shift, not just in your mindset, but in your identity. You're no longer operating from emotional instinct. You're responding from clarity, intention, and self-respect. You've reduced your availability so your presence has value again. You've prioritized self-respect over approval. You've rebuilt your confidence from the inside out. And you've created an emotional firewall that protects your peace without shutting down your heart. This is what the Stoics meant by inner strength. Not brute force, not coldness, not indifference, but self-governed stability is strength that doesn't need validation, a confidence that doesn't need to shout, a peace that isn't shaken by the noise of the world. You've become someone who is kind, but not exploited, compassionate, but not drained, strong, but not hardened. And this kind of person, grounded, intentional, emotionally sovereign, becomes untouchable in the most meaningful way. Now that we've explored the journey from breaking to clarity to strength, let's bring everything together and integrate the wisdom of Stoicism into your everyday life. In the next chapter, we'll weave together the biggest lessons, the insights that stay with you long after the video ends. The recap: 3 lessons that change everything before we close this journey. Let's step back and look at the path you've just walked. It wasn't simply about overcoming pain or learning to be stronger. It was about remembering who you are beneath all the noise, the expectations, the disappointments, and the roles life forced you to carry. You've moved through the experience of breaking, the weight of being a good person in a demanding world, the sting of betrayal, the exhaustion of giving without limits. You've seen how your mind can amplify suffering, and how clarity can cut through the emotional fog more cleanly than any coping mechanism ever could. You learned that boundaries aren't about shutting people out, but about protecting the parts of you that were never meant to be sacrificed. You learned that silence can be strength, not avoidance. You learned that selective coldness is not cruelty, but emotional wisdom. And you learned that true resilience isn't about being unbreakable. It's about becoming unshakable. Now, in this final chapter, we'll bring everything together through 3 core Stoic principles, 3 lessons that don't just help you survive hardship, but help you rise above it. Let's start integrating the wisdom. Lesson number 1. Control what you can. Release what you can't. First and most foundational Stoic lesson is deceptively simple, but it reshapes your entire emotional world once you truly understand it. You suffer most when you try to control what was never yours to control. You can't control how others treat you. You can't control who betrays you. You can't control what people think, say, feel, or expect from you. You can't control the chaos of the world or the storms inside other people's hearts, but you can control your response. You can control your boundaries. You can control what you give attention to. You can control your self-respect, your clarity, your actions, your emotional presence. And that difference between the internal and the external is where your freedom begins. This is why the Stoics emphasize the dichotomy of control. They understood that most pain doesn't come from events themselves, but from fighting reality, resisting truth, or trying to manage what belongs to someone else's responsibility. When you stop trying to fix people who don't want to change, when you stop chasing closure from those who won't give it, when you stop tying your worth to someone else's behavior, you reclaim your power. Letting go isn't giving up. Letting go is returning to yourself. Lesson number 2. Your attention shapes your life. Second major lesson of Stoicism is one that modern psychology has now fully confirmed. Your life is a reflection of what you repeatedly give your attention to. If you focus on betrayal, everything begins to look like a threat. If you focus on what you lost, you overlook what you still have. If you focus on how others treat you, you forget who you are. But when you begin directing your attention inward, toward your values, your clarity, your boundaries, your growth, your emotional landscape changes. You stop living reactively, bending to every demand, every judgment, every shift in someone else's mood. Epictetus put it plainly: you become what you give your attention to. So the question becomes, what are you feeding your mind? Are you replaying the pain that broke you? or the strength that rebuilt you? Are you absorbing negativity online, or protecting the peace you fought so hard to earn? Are you letting someone else's behavior dictate your day, or choosing where your emotional energy goes? Your attention is your compass. Point it toward fear, and your life shrinks. Point it toward clarity, and your life expands. Reclaiming your attention is how you reclaim your life. Lesson number 3. Your peace is your responsibility. No one else's third and final lesson is the one most people resist, because it demands honesty and ownership. Your peace is your responsibility, not your partners, not your families, not your jobs, not the world's. Yours. Peace doesn't come from other people treating you perfectly. It doesn't come from life becoming easier or fairer. It doesn't come from removing every challenge or every difficult personality around you. Peace comes from the discipline of choosing what you allow to touch your mind. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." Realize this, and you will find strength. Your peace is not found in perfect circumstances. It's found in emotional boundaries, in selective attention, in silence when silence protects you, in distance when distance is necessary, in choosing not to react to every provocation, fear, or criticism, when you stop outsourcing your peace to the behavior of others, when you stop expecting people to change so you can feel better, when you stop making your happiness dependent on someone else's validation. You become free. And that freedom, internal, quiet, self-directed, is the foundation of everything Stoicism teaches, the integration. Walking forward with strength and stillness as we bring everything together. One truth becomes clear. You were never weak for caring deeply. You were never foolish for trusting. You were never wrong for giving your heart. Your pain didn't come from your goodness. It came from giving your goodness to people who didn't know how to hold it. But now, you know better. You understand the weight you carry, the value you offer, and the boundaries you deserve. You've learned that control begins within, that your attention is your compass, and that your peace is your responsibility. While reducing your availability makes you stronger, one of the most life-changing realizations you'll ever have is this. You become untouchable the moment you stop being always available. For most of your life, you've been quick to answer every call, every message, every request. You rearranged your plans to help others. You sacrificed your rest, your peace, your boundaries, because being reliable felt like the right thing to do. But here's the reality. People value what is scarce. They take for granted what is constantly accessible. Your constant availability made others comfortable, but it slowly made you invisible. When you begin to create space, not out of pettiness, but out of self-respect, people start to feel the difference. They begin to understand that your time is not unlimited, your energy is not bottomless, and your heart is not a resource they can withdraw from endlessly. Reducing availability doesn't mean withdrawing from life. It means choosing intentionally where your presence goes. When you stop scattering your attention everywhere, you start gathering your power back to yourself. And in that shift, quiet, subtle, steady, people sense something new in you. A grounded confidence, an emotional independence, a strength that doesn't shout, but resonates. This is step 1 in becoming untouchable. The more available you are, the less respected you become. Here's the truth most people learn the hard way. Respect fades when availability becomes unlimited. It doesn't matter whether it's work, friendships, or relationships. Human nature is strangely predictable. When your time is always accessible, people stop treating it as something valuable. When your support is guaranteed, people stop appreciating it. When your kindness is constant, people stop recognizing it as generosity and start seeing it as duty. And the Stoics understood this long before modern psychology confirmed it. They believe that a person's worth is expressed through how they protect their time, attention, and emotional space. Marcus Aurelius wrote constantly about guarding the mind from intrusion, because he knew that anything freely exposed becomes easily invaded. Your availability sends a message. If you're always reachable, people assume your schedule is flexible. If you always say yes, they assume you have no boundaries. If you respond instantly, they assume their needs outrank yours. But when you begin to limit your access, calmly, without hostility, the dynamic changes. People pause before demanding your attention. They weigh their words more carefully. They treat your presence with intention instead of entitlement. Reducing availability teaches others what you've forgotten to teach yourself. Your time is valuable, your energy is limited, and your presence is earned. Not from seeking approval to prioritizing self-respect as you reduce your constant availability. Something begins to unfold internally. Something subtle but deeply empowering. You start noticing how often your past choices were shaped by a desire for approval. How many times you said yes because you didn't want to disappoint someone. How often you explained yourself because you feared being misunderstood. How many boundaries you compromised just to appear easy to get along with. But here's the truth the Stoics embodied. Approval is temporary. Self-respect is permanent. The more you chase validation, the more power you give away. The more you seek acceptance, the more you abandon your own needs. The more you try to be liked, the further you drift from who you truly are. Epictetus warned against this trap when he said, "If you want to be loved, love yourself first, not in a self-indulgent way, but in a self-governed way." Because strong relationships, strong boundaries, and strong character all begin with the same foundation, self-respect. When you start putting your dignity above others' expectations, everything changes. Your decisions become clearer, your emotions become steadier, your life becomes simpler, and for the first time, you begin to understand what real strength feels like. The kind that doesn't rely on approval. What self-respect looks like in real life. Self-respect isn't loud. It doesn't announce itself. It doesn't need dramatic gestures or hard walls. In real life, self-respect shows up quietly, in small decisions that add up to a completely different kind of life. Self-respect looks like saying, "I can't make it tonight," without crafting a long explanation to justify it. It looks like not responding instantly to messages just because someone demands your attention. It looks like walking away from conversations that drain you, even if the other person wants to keep arguing. It looks like choosing your mental health over someone else's expectations. It looks like not letting guilt manipulate your choices, whether that guilt comes from a partner, a coworker, or a family member. Self-respect is choosing the difficult no over the easy yes when a yes would betray your boundaries. It's choosing peace over pleasing. It's choosing alignment over approval. And something powerful happens when you start doing this consistently. People begin treating you differently. They take your time more seriously. They value your presence more intentionally. And the ones who only benefited from your lack of boundaries, they quietly fade away. This is where true emotional independence begins. The kind that makes you calm, grounded, and genuinely untouchable. How self-respect rebuilds your confidence, and inner stability as your self-respect grows. Something remarkable begins to happen. You stop second-guessing yourself. You stop apologizing for existing. You stop shrinking to make others comfortable. You begin trusting your own decisions again, the way you once did before life. Stress, relationships, and disappointments made you doubt your instincts. You start feeling grounded in who you are, even when others disagree or misunderstand you. And this is crucial. Self-respect restores the confidence that betrayal once damaged. When you honor your limits, you no longer fear losing people who don't honor you. When you value your own time, you no longer tolerate those who waste it. When you choose your well-being, you no longer crumble under pressure or manipulation. You've discovered the quiet strength of saying less, the wisdom of stepping back. the courage of choosing yourself, and through all of it, you've grown into someone more grounded, more intentional, more aligned with who you truly are. This doesn't mean life will stop testing you, it means you will no longer be breakable in the same way. Your heart may still feel, but it won't collapse. Your mind may still struggle, but it won't spiral. And your soul may still care, but it will care wisely. You are walking forward not as the person you were, but as the person you were always meant to become. A gentle call to continue the journey if this message found you at the right moment. If something in these words felt like clarity, or relief, or truth, then keep going. Don't let the progress you made today fade when the video ends. Take one idea from this journey, just one, and carry it with you into tomorrow. Maybe it's a boundary you've been afraid to set. Maybe it's the habit of pausing before reacting. Maybe it's the decision to choose your peace over someone else's expectations. Whatever it is, let it stay with you. Let it guide you. And if you found comfort or strength here, consider subscribing to StoicCraft, not as a favor, but as a way of reminding yourself that your growth matters, that your peace deserves support, and that you don't have to walk this path alone. Share this video with someone who carries too much, someone who never asks for help. Someone who deserves the same clarity you found today. And before you go, tell me in the comments which part of this message spoke to you the loudest. Your voice might be exactly what someone else needs to hear. The journey doesn't end here. It continues with every boundary you honor, every truth you choose, and every step you take back toward yourself.